The Gorno-Badakhshan Autonomous Region of Tajikistan has found itself at the center of conflict between the Tajik government and those who oppose the rule of President Emomali Rahmon for the last decade. While President Rahmon and Tajik forces have primarily been mobilized against opposition leaders who oppose his rule in the GBO region, the region has seen widespread escalation against any and all peoples critical of his leadership over the last year, with dozens of journalists being arrested on baseless grounds in an effort to curb free speech in Tajikistan. One of the journalists arrested this year is Mamadsulton Mavlonazarov, who operated independently in a Facebook page under the pen name Mamadsulton. Through this Facebook page, Mavlonazarov primarily covered events in the Gorno-Badakhshan region in addition to voicing his concerns and criticisms of government actions in the region. Mavlonazarov is a native to the region, having been born on December 29, 1950, in a village in the Raskalai district of the Badakhshan Mountain Autonomous Province. Mavlonazarov has a long history as a journalist, having studied within the Department of Journalism at his local university and graduated in 1972. From then on, he worked both as a reporter and editor at various news outlets between 1972 and 1978. From 1979 until his retirement, Mavlonazarov acted as a KGB agent and reached the rank of lieutenant colonel, continuing his work as a journalist and operating an information center for Tajikistan, while also acting as a political commentator for the Tajik newspaper called Narodnaya Gazeta, earning several awards from the Soviet Union's Union of Journalists as well as from other journalistic entities. Mavlonazarov was arrested at his home in Dushanbe on June 16, 2022, without the prior issuing of a warrant or any other kind of warning. His arrest was fairly violent, with relatives explaining that Tajik police stormed into his house and dragged him from his bed and refused to disclose his location to relatives and other news outlets. Relatives only became aware of his location several days later, finding out that he was being held at a temporary detention center within the Ministry of Internal Affairs. And while they were able to give him supplies and some other clothes, they weren't allowed to see him, and they were unaware of whether he was being given access to legal representation or not. Information about Mavlonazarov was scarce until his trial and subsequent sentencing on September 13, 2022, when relatives revealed that he was sentenced to 7 years for publicly calling to forcibly change the constitutional order, as well as insulting a law enforcement officer via media or the internet. While his imprisonment at the Ministry of Internal Affairs is more likely a direct result of his previous role within the KGB and the Tajik government, it's also likely that he is being held under close surveillance due to his public comments about Simon Yatimov, the head of the Tajikistan State Committee for National Security, who has made several appearances throughout his posts. One of these posts directly challenged Yatimov's qualifications, explaining that at a young age, Yatimov was placed in largely insignificant roles in smaller villages as a security official so that he would have little to do. In order to make himself more visible to the KGB officials, Mavlonazarov explained that Yatimov took corrupt practices, targeting and harassing local Muslims during times of prayer, and continuing these corrupt practices upon his promotion, with Mavlonazarov accusing Yatimov and other high-ranking officials of embezzling money from the state's pension fund. Another post of his revealed that he had been the victim of state-sponsored harassment for several years now. On a routine run to pick up his pension check, he noticed several cars parked around his home and others following him, with Mavlonazarov attempting to lose his pursuers. While he eventually arrived at his destination, he was confronted by his pursuers, who accused him of breaking several laws. While he managed to be released from that situation and return home, he continued to notice unmarked cars around his apartment in addition to the installation of surveillance and jamming equipment in the apartment directly above his, while also disrupting his utilities at random times throughout the day, sometimes going hours without electricity. He stated that he believed that these pursuers and installation of disruptive technologies were sanctioned by seniors of the Security Committee, alluding to Yatimov, in addition to the Ministry of Internal Affairs. It's clear that Mavlonazarov has been some sort of victim for a long time now. And while he's just one of many arrested last year, Tajikistan's crackdown on independent journalists has limited the availability of unbiased news sources in the country and internationally, with the silence subsequently allowing for the Tajik government to engage in both constitutional and human rights violations. Imprisoned journalists have been forced to give false confessions in exchange for the safety of their families who are threatened by Tajik officials. And the only reason we know about this torture and similar events is because these prisoners have been able to smuggle out letters that have reached human rights organizations and news outlets that let us know about their conditions. Several organizations, including Human Rights Watch, has called out to Tajikistan in an effort to release the imprisoned journalists and end information blackouts in the country, though Tajikistan has so far failed to meet these requests. While there are other factors in play here and progress can be made in an instant, It's important for member states of the UN to be more open about their opposition to the actions in Tajikistan, as well as other countries, and make efforts to intervene.